Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of November 17, 2024. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. Boy, is it a very special time. And it truly is so special now. Powerful energies are with us. And the big news, the one that I know I've been talking to you about for years now, saying this is coming up. We're getting a little taste of it. Now here we are. We're getting a little break of it. Well, here we are now on the precipice of this whole new understanding of what it is that is undeniable, what it is that is under the surface that will no longer be hidden. What is it that we've tried to reject, but now has this strong impulse, a will of its own, no matter what it is that some might think of it? Here it is, right in your face, the very thing you didn't want to look at. And now it's here. And that is Pluto. It is Pluto that I know I've been talking to you about for a long time. And we got a little bit of a taste of Pluto in Aquarius going back 2023. And of course, earlier this year, but now it is this Tuesday that Pluto moves back into the sign of Aquarius and settles in for a nice long stay for about the next 20 years to come. And so there's this journey that we are beginning, or rather, we are fully immersing ourselves into now. But then there's the journey that we are completing, that we are finishing off. And that is the journey of Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn was about acknowledging the structures that exist and the effect of those structures. Those structures that feel big, massive, overbearing. And it's about understanding our own place within these larger societal structures that exist and how much mobility do we feel within them. It was about status and status symbols, but also about acknowledging where it is that imposter syndrome occurs as well, and how we might live that out in sometimes insidious ways. Well, it is now with Pluto in Aquarius that coming out of a phase where we as humanity have seen and understood the structures that we say we're ready to break them all down. We're ready to not even have the matter anymore. We are ready to free ourselves of those structures. That's part of what Aquarius represents. It is at once the new and the next. It's the futuristic sign, but it's also a sign of brethren, of seeing ourselves in each other and like each other. But even within that, we end up creating hierarchies. I'm reminded of the incredible, the iconic work by George Orwell, Animal Farm. And this is something I think everybody who's watching this probably had to watch in school as a grade school kid. I know I did. But of course, it's such an incredible story and so insightful. And it is essentially this idea that there are these animals on a farm. They don't like how they're treated, so they overtake the farm. And it starts out by saying all animals are created equal. And then some animals, they like the taste of power. They start to create these hierarchies. And as they ascend hierarchies, others go lower in those hierarchies. And the very iconic phrase of this work is all animals are created equal, but some are more equal than others. And it is this that is part of the insidiousness of Pluto. As much as the energy of Aquarius is about equality and humanity and this sense of revolution, where do we end up on the other side of the revolution? Well, that's what we're going to end up exploring and participating in. Whatever power we have, however illusionary it might be, there's something about us as people that enjoys the authority that we've earned and what we have gained. But what happens when, regardless of what that is, we come to realize that maybe we are not at the forefront of that as much as we might think. Well, that would shatter a whole lot of egos very quickly in ways that might be very uncomfortable for some more than others. And that's just part of what Pluto represents moving through the sign of Aquarius. It is the hyper-intellectual, the hyper-consciousness that in some way discounts the fact that we are embodied and we are physically embodied for a reason. There is that saying in spiritual circles that says, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are spiritual beings in a physical body. And there tends to be an emphasis on the spiritual part. And that's appropriate, but that's actually representative of an equation. And in that equation, we see that, yes, we are spiritual beings, but we know ourselves as spiritual beings through the fact that we are having an embodied and physical experience in this lifetime. You don't have to embrace one and forsake the other to find meaning in either. Both can be acknowledged and honored and amplified in this life as part of a rich human experience. How do we find that right balance in a time that is now beginning where the emphasis is going to be on hyper intellectualization, hyper mind focus, communication focus, to the point where to some, the body just might not matter. Now, there are great things about that, of course. Liberated from our bodies, we're also free to then be known for our character, for our intellect, for our minds. And that's what so many of us truly want, to be seen as ourselves. And it is on the level of intellect that great equality can actually occur. My friend Natalia Maria recently taught a class at Synchronicity University where she explored this understanding of Pluto transits differently. And in fact, we spoke about that over at Synchronicity Web TV here on my YouTube channel. You can click to that here. In Natalia's talk, she drew correlations between experiencing a Pluto transit and the Norse mythology of Odin, who hanged himself from the tree of knowledge for 9 days. And it is this image that is the inspiration behind the Hanged Man tarot card that many of us are familiar with or have seen in one way or another. And what I found so fascinating is when we see the Hanged Man tarot card and what the story of Odin teaches us is that, yes, when you're in the midst of a moment, there are times when you're just not going to know, where your only power is to surrender, to accept, to allow. But the fact that Odin takes on this willingly, with an understanding that it is only in surrender, it is only by hanging himself upside down from the tree of knowledge that he will gain knowledge. He will gain the wisdom that he's seeking. And so it is with Pluto. It is ultimately a journey towards greater knowledge, and we could even say greater love and greater wisdom. However, in the midst of it, it can be hard. And with Odin, in the midst of hanging upside down for all those days, yeah, it was hard. And yet, that was the path that was required. It was necessary for him to truly embrace and become the God that he is. You cannot reach divinity without truly knowing yourself. And we don't truly know ourselves if it were not for these big, tough planets like Pluto and like the other outers as well, like Neptune, like Uranus, and like Saturn as well. These planets are considered karmic. Now, what is karma? Karma is ultimately, I like to think, we think of it as this idea of, you reap what you sow, you get what you give. But it's also about the soul promises we make to ourselves and to others. And when we have big transits like this, One of these planets changing signs, one of these planets going direct. Like last week, we had Saturn go direct late in the week. It is as if certain karmic promises, karmic ties are complete for this lifetime. They are done. We are now moving onto brand new territory. And for all of us in our own ways and in our own lives, well, yeah, it may feel more and more as we start navigating this time, more and more of Pluto moving into Aquarius, getting comfortable in Aquarius, that we start to understand what the larger contracts might have been for us with Pluto in Capricorn, and how we start to feel more and more like they have been fulfilled for this lifetime. And we are now moving forward, free of that karmic tie that we don't need to carry into our future anymore. And that just might be one of the great gifts of this time. As Pluto changes signs, we will more and more start to appreciate what karmic ties were playing out for us before, knowing that we fulfilled whatever contracts we needed to, and now it's on to the next important contracts for us. And they will be revealed. And the thing with karmic contracts is sometimes we don't realize that they're playing out. It seems like they can play out in moments that seem like a non-event. But most often, we feel karmic contracts because it feels like a big deal. It feels like this person, this interaction, this moment of our lives, it is wrought with complexity and uncertainty and deep feeling. We're seeking nuance within it, but instead we find ourselves obsessing about it. But it is when we stop obsessing, well, that really is the definition of freedom. When we've let go of needing to go over something again and again in our minds to the point where we're no longer present for ourselves in our lives today. It is only in the present, it is only in breath that life actually occurs. If you've ever taken a class with me, you know I always like to start with an intention. And the intention always ends with, it is only in the present moment that the most powerful learning can take place. And it is in breath that we experience the present moment where life actually occurs. And the present is where the power is. Well, in some ways, we're going to stop going over, ruminating over, obsessing over, thinking about what occurred as we now gear up and are ready to shift our focus where it really matters, to shift our intensity, to shift our understanding of complexity and powerlessness and its highest sense. That's part of what Pluto promises, an awareness of our powerlessness, which isn't comfortable. But it is only from that place that we're able to actually hang from the tree of knowledge. It is only in surrender to the things that feel overwhelming, uncomfortable, even painful, that we then are able to gain real wisdom that helps us to see ourselves more lovingly, to see ourselves and know ourselves as more than ever before. And it is now that we are ready to embrace this journey that much more fully. I truly believe that the fact that you are here right now in this moment, at this time on Earth, is not an accident. The fact that this transit of Pluto in Aquarius is going to speak to you as it may come to speak to you at this time in your life is no accident. We're all beginning this transit with our own point of reference, right? Depending on your age, depending on your life experiences, depending on the social location that you found yourself in, your understanding of the structures and how you are going to break free of them, or at least find acceptance within them, that Pluto in Capricorn sought to teach us. That's going to determine what you're bringing into this transit, yes. But the fact that you are at this point in human history and participating in it, and if you are here, you are participating in it. It means that on some level, your soul knew when you incarnated, or your soul knows now that you're ready for this new journey. You're ready to understand intensity and to see things as they are, the gritty, the rejected, the messy, the complicated, the gross, the abject. You're ready to see it, acknowledge it at this point, because it is only by being able to see it that you then are able to liberate yourself from it so that it isn't controlling you anymore. And in this way, it is Pluto that speaks to the shadow self. Those of you who are students of astrology know that the astrological chart is divided into 12 parts. These are called houses. Now, how the houses are calculated depends on your calculation method, and there are many out there. But regardless, each house is associated with certain archetypes, and there are these natural correspondences that take place in modern astrology. To the ancients, not as much, but certainly to modern astrologers, we look at correspondences between signs, houses, and planets. And when we go around the chart, different houses will have an affinity to their own signs, and understanding a sign can help us to understand that house, and understanding a planet can help us to understand that house as well. Well, when you look at a chart, you're going to see the ascendant, right? That's the first sign of your chart. That's the first house of the chart. And regardless of what sign your ascendant is in, it is in some ways Aries that encapsulates the archetype of what the first house represents, which is the self. It is the first breath. It is you being fully you, independently and alive. It's you as a child, what lit you up, what brought you joy, what helped you to play, and so much more is part of what the first house represents. It's your most immediate identity, your priorities, and more. Well, if you look opposite the first house, what you see is the seventh house. And the seventh house is a mirror. It is a reflection. And it is this house that, regardless of what sign you have on the cusp of the descendant, which is the gateway, the beginning of the seventh house, regardless of what that sign is, in some ways, the archetype of the seventh house is going to be connected to, is going to have a natural correspondence to the sign of Libra and its ruling planet Venus. And so this part of the sky becomes associated with how we are seeing, how we might be perceived by others. It isn't the reflection itself, it is our assessment of the reflection that matters. It speaks to, based on the first house and what we're putting forward, what we might be attracting back and how we feel about it, what our hopes are for that we attract back, including in terms of people. How we might be assessing how we are perceived, the importance we give it, and what we're hoping for in terms of what might complement us is what the seventh house can show us. But after the seventh house, we have the eighth house. And the eighth house is a house that has a natural correspondence to the sign of Scorpio and its ruling planets. The ancient ruling planet of Scorpio is Mars. The modern ruling planet of Scorpio is Pluto. And so it is in the eighth house after the seventh, right? With the seventh, it's about sharing. It's the back and forth. It's the give and take. But it is in the eighth house that we find trust issues. We find our resistance. We find a need to go deeper with sharing and to figure out how we can still feel safe by going to that more vulnerable place. It is in the eighth house where we truly merge with others, that we realize what really matters in life beyond just what we understand about the reflection of other people. We go beyond the niceties and thinking about what other people are going to think, and instead go to a place where we understand what really matters is what is guiding our perception is often rooted in psychological processes. Now, how are we going to change that so that we're able to see our reflection that much more compassionately, maybe even more lovingly as well? It is in the 8th house that we understand the nuances of everything that we did. And those things that we've hated about ourselves, about our lives, about our past, about our stories. Those things that we wish had been different, that maybe we chose or maybe we had no power over. It is in the 8th house that we find acceptance and we face the regret and the pain of resentment that might be there. It is Pluto that makes us aware of those deep pains, but it is also Pluto that shows us the way out, that shows us the shadow self, that is actually in many ways driving the car, right? It's wonderful when we have a very strong, metaphorically, 1st house energy, right? It's wonderful to think I'm the captain of my ship. And yeah, of course we are. It's a wonderful thing to be the captain of your ship. But if you're not understanding what's actually happening with the motor and what's going on underneath and the quality of the gasoline and how, you're trying to get to, I don't know, Brazil, but you keep ending up in Guam. Well, why is that? You are the captain. You're steering it. Why can't you get yourself to Brazil where you want to be? Well, the thing is, it's actually because of those deeper things. And if we are able to instead not be hard on ourselves, but instead to see those deeper things with greater compassion and an understanding that those deeper things have their wisdom. Maybe on some deep level, we know that we actually, on a soul level, need to be in Guam. Maybe there's someone there or some experience there that can only be there. And maybe we're understanding that on a soul level, but maybe there's some part of our psyche that knows that. Like long ago, you heard a story of a distant cousin that was out there in Guam, but he's not a good person. You don't want to meet him. He's bad. Well, with Pluto, we go towards what it is that is forbidden. We go towards what it is that we're told is bad, is not good, is dirty, is messy. That represents all those things that we would rather reject. With Pluto, we can't help ourselves but go there. And in that way, we participate in the unfolding of the universe. We understand ourselves as a universe within a multiverse. And so, where Pluto goes invites us to see the shadow. Collectively, certainly. We're about to see the shadow of groups and how they operate and groupthink and the shadow self of putting too much focus on intellectualism, too much focus on individualism, too much focus on collectivism. We're about to see all of that. But it's going to be years in the making. But for now, and as much as possible, remember that any effort you take, any step you take towards wanting to understand more deeply, even if that's just understanding yourself. I mean, that's enough of a mystery. Forget trying to understand other people, right? That is really inviting a conundrum, an obsession that feels like it never ends. But where it is that you are earnestly wanting to bring a spirit of authenticity, to understand rather than be understood, to quote Saint Francis of Assisi, where it is that you bring that honest intention, well, you may see things that you don't like, truths that are uncomfortable, but it is only in seeing the truth that we just might change it into something else. And whatever else that is, at least it'll be real, not a lie that we've been telling ourselves, perhaps for our whole lives. The shadow is one part of us. The conscious part is another. But we don't always realize how the shadow is determining so much of what is conscious, where we think we're making choices, but it's the shadow playing out. And to actually see the shadow can be painful, but it's also tremendously empowering. And I think the emphasis is going to be on the empowerment at certain moments. I think there's so much to look forward to over the course of this decade. I mean, next year, we're going to start getting a taste of, and by next year, I mean in a few months' time, we start getting a taste of that Uranus-Pluto trine that's going to happen in the early degrees of air signs, with Uranus newly in Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius. And of course, we're going to have Neptune and Saturn speaking in harmony with that Pluto as well. We're going to have the grand sextile, major configuration energy that I've been talking to you about. I spoke about in the Decade Ahead video. But there's a lot to look forward to here, including moments of real insight that brings with it a new freedom that perhaps we've never known before. The 8th house has to do with the secrets we consciously keep. And in some ways, Pluto exemplifies this. It's the messy, and the messy is the stuff that we normally keep to ourselves. We don't want to share it. We don't want other people to know. And yet it is there that there's something honest, there's something real. And when we're able to redefine the messy, to understand it instead as a source of wisdom, well, that's really when we find the inner revolution, that real freedom that Pluto in Aquarius is promising us as we begin this new chapter in our individual lives, but certainly for humanity as well. Now, some 17 hours before the official crossing of that finish line occurs with Pluto leaving Capricorn for good, we have the Sun speaking in supreme harmony with Neptune. And this is a very inspiring energy. And this is on the heels of the Sun opposite Uranus that takes place at the very beginning of the week. And so we have here this bit of a journey on the lead up, right? The Sun opposite Uranus is a surprise a minute, a shock a minute, it's jarring. But there's also this sense of peace that's there with the Sun trine Neptune. And the Sun trine Neptune is very hopeful, to the point of being idealistic, to the point of seeing everything as rose-colored beauty, misty vibes, right? It's seeing everything and as an idealized version of itself. And it's almost like we need to, as we are at the precipice of this journey, hours before we fully dive into that journey, to have this very ideal energy. I actually think that this is going to help us to see the past years of Pluto's journey through Capricorn itself as one filled with love, filled with nuance, and being able to glimpse the good, even in the midst of having to look at the not good as Pluto moved through Capricorn. And then we get to the other side of it, and it is on Thursday that the Sun changes signs and moves into the sign of Sagittarius. Happy birthday to all the Sages out there. Sag season begins. It's time to party. With Scorpio season, we go deep, right? We really understand. We get to the core. We look at the mess. We confront the shadow. We did all that inner work, and now the Sun moves into Sag. And it's like, let's bring out the wine or whatever it is for you, chocolate, sugar for me, right? Let's bring it out. Let's have a cake. Let's have a party. Let the music play, right? It becomes that kind of vibe in the air, which is really, really nice. It'll be so welcome. I personally love Sages and I love Sag season. I have a Sag moon. But having said that, the thing is, with Sag changing signs, Sagittarius Sun will very quickly move into harmony with an Aquarius Pluto. And this is the first important alignment that Pluto is making in this brand new chapter that we are fully immersing ourselves in now. And I love this, I have to say, because it's showing us that it doesn't all have to be dreary. We know it's Pluto, but sometimes Pluto can be a source of great strength and focus in particular. And sometimes Pluto can help us to see the truth in a way that frees us, that helps us to ultimately enjoy our lives that much more. And my hope is that that just might be part of the promise of this time. Whereas us being freed of structures means also freed of dogma, which means also a freedom to truly be ourselves. And when we are truly ourselves and we know it and we rest in it, well, overwhelmingly, the experience, more often than not, tends to be one of lightness, of ease, even if there are challenges. Being able to truly know that we can be ourselves fully, well, that is something to celebrate. And I think this beautiful sextile that plays out on Thursday is going to help us to do just that. It's going to help us to have that understanding that we are in a new chapter, but also a part of the human experience is to enjoy the human experience. And we are choosing to embrace that. We're taking the opportunity to move ourselves in that direction of lightness, of ease that comes from self-acceptance. The opposition of Mercury and Jupiter on Monday can be over-promising or using our words in ways that are exaggerated or over the top, or maybe thinking about things like in a really big way. But remember, Jupiter is the ruling planet of Sagittarius. Sagittarius and Jupiter have a natural affinity for each other, a natural connection. And so Mercury opposite, well, that's going to help us to begin to bring forward those very optimistic vibes in terms of our thinking processes, in terms of how we're using communication and language with others and ourselves as part of preparing the ground and convincing ourselves that Pluto in Aquarius, actually, it's going to be really good. It's going to be really easy. It's going to be a joy. Yeah, it might be. It certainly is going to have its moments of being that. And I think some of us might feel like we need to tell ourselves that because on some deeper level, we know Pluto likes to get messy. Pluto is really an energy that can get very intense. And yet, even knowing that, there can be hope. There can be the choice to see things optimistically now. On Friday, Venus will speak in harmony with Saturn. Now, Venus is in the sign of Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, where Venus is usually exalted. And so that's a little tech talk, right, for those students of astrology out there. But all of that is to say, these two planets are connected in powerful ways beyond just this specific communication that they are having on Friday. I love this energy, and I say that because I know Venus in Capricorn is not the easiest vibe. I have that, okay? I know a little something about it. And Capricorn is the energy of work. Venus is an energy that likes to allow, that likes to lay back, that has a sense of confidence to it enough that it doesn't necessarily need to go out and work and make it happen. And so when we get Venus already in the sign of Capricorn, feeling like, okay, if I want the love, if I want the money, if I want the beauty, if I want the ease in life, if I want the social connections, all things that Venus represents, well, I've got to earn it. I've got to work for it. I've got to make it happen. But then Saturn, the planet of working and making it happen, is in the sign of Pisces, which is about surrender and compassion and relax. So how are these energies now connecting and helping each other along this journey? I think that's part of the gift of this time. Of course, romantically, this can speak to playing the long game, wanting something that lasts, wanting something that feels real. and including with money as well, any efforts that we're taking to move ourselves towards greater prosperity, we're more willing to engage with things like delayed gratification. We're more willing to put off the pleasures of the moment in order to have the larger gains that we see possible for us, that we see that we could work towards. However, this is also an energy of commitment, which I think is really nice. And that could be a commitment to yourself, to a project, to an endeavor, to something you love, whatever that might be. Knowing that it is for you to find what you love and then give it energy in a way that gives you a sense of self, in a way that gives you a sense of joy. Well, that's going to be the work that's going to call a lot of us now. But it can also be part of what helps that many more of us feel steady and sure, more connected in essential ways to those very things that help us to feel prosperous and loved and beautiful. And we just might find that even though we might have an instinct to work for it, in many ways, we can embody it right where we are. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It is a valuable and meaningful astrological moment. Whew, here we are, aren't we? We are here, a day that I have been talking to you about since 2016, at least. That is a long time ago in a way, but you and I both know you blink and 8 years have passed. That's how long I've been talking about this. It is a big deal of a moment. We are starting a new chapter in many ways, and we are diving right in. Yes, we got a little taste of it for much of this year, a little taste of it last year, but all of that little bit of a feel, little bit of a taste is nothing like being totally immersed, which is what this journey forward is now calling for us to do. Accept, embrace, and I would also say get excited. I'm excited, actually, and I'm excited because this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. That's one reason. But another reason is change is good. I actually think that it is only when we allow change to take place, and even if we don't allow it, if we fight it, doesn't matter, it's going to happen anyways. But when it happens, there's this instinct, this current underneath anything that might be taking place. And that is towards greater love and greater wisdom. No matter how chaotic or uncertain or messy it might look like on the surface, there's also the real promise here that we might move towards something better. And that better is what we co-create together. And my hope is, my belief is that we just might co-create a beautiful collective energy of greater equality, of greater interconnection together. Thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys, and to prove it to you, here's some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded exclusive video scopes each and every week for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month with choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. I'm going to keep announcements really brief. Please check out my sponsor, my newest sponsor, which is the Modern Mystic Ancient Wisdom YouTube channel. They are a brand new channel. They've got a few videos up. They've got plans to put up a lot more. If you subscribe to that channel and watch just one video, it helps out this video and my channel so much. And I think you're actually going to really love whatever it is that you choose to watch, because they've got some incredible videos up there. I was keeping it playing in the background while I was doing my things, and I loved it, like Rumi quotes and Rumi poems and Socrates wisdom. And they've got a lot of like Confucius wisdom and so much more. So I think there's a lot that you might get out of it. And also, I'm really grateful to them as well for making this work that I do that much more possible. I hope you absolutely love them. Links are in the description and likely in the comments as well below. I'm going to keep announcements brief this week, and soon, if you just hold on, the short horoscopes are going to be coming up, and they will focus on Pluto in Aquarius, with Pluto moving through the very last degrees of the sign of Capricorn. I know that we have been losing some of the greats in astrology. It was just a few weeks back that we lost my dear Professor Jeffrey Cornelius. He passed away. But more recently, earlier this week, we lost somebody who I love very, very much. And I miss already very, very much. A very dear friend of mine that you've seen on my channel many times. The great, the legendary Michael Lutin has gone on, has passed. And I am going to be hosting a memorial for him online on Sundays. So if you're one of those people who just watches this video as soon as I publish it, well, you'll have a chance to go on and join us live for the memorial service over on Zoom. I will link to that below, and I will remove that link once it is that the memorial is done. Depending on how many people join us, I might end up live streaming it here on YouTube or not. I'm going to feel it out and see what the will of the group is, because it's not about me. It's about honoring the beautiful, the brilliant Michael Lutin is really it. So that memorial is being hosted by Synchronicity University. However, I am sure if you keep an eye out, I am sure other people are going to have their own memorial services as well, as part of celebrating this incredibly extraordinary person who I had the great blessing to count as a dear friend and mentor and inspiration. And I am hearing so many stories right now of how many people feel that Michael Lutin encouraged them, inspired them, believed in them, motivated them. So many people are coming forward and saying this. Like, he was just that open to seeing the love in people, to seeing the good in people, to seeing the potential in people. And I think it is so incredibly beautiful to consider that this extraordinary person brought all that love and contributed it to astrology and astrologers. And I am one of many. And so whatever part of your path towards greater love and greater wisdom Michael Lutin might have played, you are very welcome to join us as well. And I will be there, of course. And thank you again. Stay tuned for short horoscopes looking at Pluto in Aquarius for your sign. And I am just so incredibly grateful for these moments, this connection, for you seeing me as some part of your sacred journey. You have my heartfelt gratitude for that. So thank you again. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. Pluto in Aquarius is a game-changing energy. Well, actually, it indicates a big new chapter for humanity itself. Wherever Pluto goes, we are about to get way intense in the matters that the sign represents. And it is Aquarius that has to do with the collective, with groups, but it is a sign with a strong duality. And so it also speaks to individualism, and actually hyper-individualism. As much as it has to do with technology being plugged in, it's also living off the grid and deciding to reject all those ways in which we might stay in touch with each other or seek to belong. Pluto does like to show us the dark side of whatever sign it travels through. And in this case, yes, we just might see moments of very powerful, if not toxic, group think, but also how seeking to be a law onto yourself, well, how much pain that can create for yourself and maybe for others. Aquarius is a revolutionary energy, a futuristic energy, and we are about to dive in and immerse ourselves into all things having to do with freedom, equality, technology, having to do with advancements like we've never known before in human history. According to the futurist Ray Kurzweil, all progress that we make as human beings is exponential, meaning that what used to take us like 1,000 years to figure out in terms of our tools and the technological ways in which we might grow, now we're able to do them in like a couple of hours. So imagine that tendency in all areas of life going on overdrive and reaching a new state of intensity. That's part of what we just might see now. The most powerful revolution is the one that happens within. That's where true freedom is found. And this is the sign of freedom after all. And my hope is that all of us find a way to embrace and truly feel free to be whom it is that we authentically are. That just might be one of the greatest freedoms in the world. Pluto is an intense vibration, make no mistake, and very often it's an intensity rooted in some part of the shadow self, those very inner motivations in your psyche that you're not always conscious of, but as Pluto encourages you to become conscious of them, well, you're able to have that much more ability to decide how it is you're going to direct this very powerful energy. This is nothing less than a new chapter for humanity. And depending on your sun, moon, and rising sign, you want to take all of that and synthesize the information, but that's going to tell you something about what role you're going to play in your personal change and evolution and intensity as part of the collective. Now, I have been speaking about these energies over on my YouTube channel, including the monthly horoscopes for this month. And I did also speak about these in the decade ahead horoscopes. And of course, lots of horoscopes over at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Aries, friendships, group endeavors, and the hopes and wishes you have for your life. Well, those hopes and wishes just might go through a massive change now. You're about to get very honest about who your friends really are and where it is that you belong. You might be seeking group endeavors as part of your own transformative processes, your own healing, and exploring what it is that lies within you, the truth within you. Whenever it is that you're engaging a transformative process, other people are going to be there, but the right people, well, they will be revealed. Taurus, career, social standing, life purpose. You are either going to focus in and hone in on what it is you desire to achieve and feel consumed by it, or you'll go through a massive transformation where what you thought you really wanted, what you thought was worth achieving, just doesn't mean anything to you anymore. Wherever Pluto goes, you are asked to surrender, to accept, and to be open to a higher, more loving vision. And that is more true for you than just about anybody in the zodiac now. Gemini, long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, and legal matters. These are going to be spaces and places where you're likely going to feel very driven and you'll be seeking power in these institutions. You might find a whole new approach to understanding yourself at this time, as this is a part of the sky that has to do with the philosophical, political, and spiritual beliefs that help you to make sense of the world and guide your life. There can be a very fervent approach to what it is that you're coming to believe is true for you now. Cancer, profound change, truth, transformation, regeneration, and wealth. How it is you understand it, how you cultivate it spiritually, emotionally, but financially as well. If anybody out there is going to go through a profound transformation rooted in exploring the truth of who you are, the truth of your shadow, the truth of your psyche, it certainly is going to be you. And this is a time when you learn your emotional energy behind wealth and put it in the right place. Leo, partnerships of all kinds, including romantic partnerships, are going to become incredibly important to you as you start to focus in on having the type of partnerships, marriages, relationships that you desire. Either you're going to attract people who are profoundly transformative in your life with deep connections, or you're going to find yourself having to confront some pretty intense feelings as part of your shadow as you interact with others. Virgo, clients, customers, co-workers, your daily life, the work you do, and also how well you take care of you. I think you're about to find a deep passion for self-care, where your health is going to be the thing where you feel you want to be at the forefront of meaningful transformation. Your workplace and the type of people you attract that I just mentioned, well, they're either going to be filled with drama and also some toxic connections as well, I'm sorry to say, but they could also facilitate profound and meaningful transformations for you now. Libra, romance, flirtation, and what the heart wants in every area of life. Your heart is about to be lit up, and part of that is going to be flirtatious, intense exchanges that feel like they serve as a catalyst moment towards more sweeping changes. Be mindful about things like gambling or risk taking. Well calculated can have you making great gains, but Pluto can be a very all or nothing energy, so you've got to be smart, or else this can indicate being way too risky and experiencing loss. Scorpio, home, family, and your living situation. You are about to understand what home is for you very differently than you did before. There might be this strong desire to be present at home or with your family in some way. Now, this can also be you dealing with, addressing, and resolving the past. Even if it's only within yourself, you are rearranging your relationship with what was so that you are only carrying the most authentic and best going forward from here. Sagittarius, communication, conversation, siblings, cousins, neighbors. Well, these people are about to become a whole lot more important. You're about to learn the power of acceptance and surrender among these people. But outside of that, your curiosity is lit up. You are feeling that much more inspired to learn more, to share more, to be more. And whether it is by taking charge of your social media presence or tapping into other alliances that help you to bring forward what you do, well, it looks like a lot of more people are going to learn just what it is that you have to share. Capricorn, I think the fact that Pluto is leaving your sign is perhaps the biggest deal. You'll notice your own energy calm right down. Life feels less intense, but now all that you've learned about yourself over the last 16 years, you're about to apply those lessons to your understanding of what's worth doing for money and what isn't. Either you will engage in a source of pursuing prosperity that has you being a transformative presence in your life or in the lives of others. Or this is going to be you having a newfound understanding of what it is that you're no longer willing to do and what it is that really matters. Now, ultimately, with this energy, you're also learning to love yourself more and more adamantly than ever before. Aquarius, identity, who you know yourself to be, what matters to you most and first. All of that is going to go through a profound shift. You'll likely have some pretty intense and redefining experiences as you get in touch with an understanding of what and who really matters in your life, and where it is perhaps you've given way too much of yourself to what you now understand as superficial. Getting to the essentials in life helps you to know that you already have so much of what matters to you. Pisces, soul, psyche, spirit, there is so much going on within, and karma is about to feel that much more present, that much more intense, and in some cases, working out what you consciously could not. Now, this can also be a time of fortunate closures, but they might feel quite intense or inconvenient in the moment. So just pace yourself at this time. Truly, if anybody out there should know that everything is working out in your favor, it is you. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great transit. Enjoy.